Hey friend, hey, so, whew, let me try to get my life together, child. Hold on. Head itching, I'm thirsty. Okay, let's do this. So I have cleaned up my spare room, which is basically my office space slash closet. This is pretty much where you guys see me do the most of my recording and all of that kind of stuff. If you want a tour of this room, just let me know in the comments, because that sounds like kind of a fun video to do. So yeah, anyway, today's video, I am going to be doing a kind of a 2021 review, and specifically on how my mental health was throughout 2021. I want to share with you guys what it was like for me January to December, and what my mental health looked like. Now, I don't really remember specific, there are some months that I remember specifically, other ones are just kind of lumped together. So I don't necessarily know if I can go in order like January, February, March, April, May, but I will kind of obviously go from beginning to end as the best that I can remember everything. I did write some stuff down so that hopefully it's easier for me to keep track, because y'all know I be feeling like I'm rambling sometimes, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's what we're doing today. I feel like there was something else I wanted to say, but I don't know. Creepy. Okay, so coming into 2021, to be honest with you, I don't remember what the word was that I was coming into 2021 with. I don't remember what exactly the expectation was, other than writing out a vision. I did write out my vision. I don't have that stuff up here, but I did write out my vision. But to be honest, I was kind of all over the place once everything was said and done. So coming into 2021, I was very much excited about the process. I kind of just wanted to enjoy the process. And I don't really know what the expectation was that I had, but I can assure you that 2021 was nothing like what I expected. To be completely honest with you, 2021 was probably one of the worst and best years of my life for my mental health, and most importantly, my spirituality. So that being said, January was pretty cool. It was real chill. It wasn't nothing too serious. Now, I had told you guys a few videos back when I was kind of rating or going over some of my favorite outfits from the year. I had told you that January, I hadn't been myself. To be honest, as far as clothing and styling goes, I hadn't been myself since probably like 2019. I didn't spend a lot of time in 2020 getting dressed for anything. I had gotten complacent with being in the house all the time, and just putting effort into my appearance wasn't something that I desired to enjoy. So I had kind of stopped doing it. So January was cool, but it was nothing spectacular. February was where things really took a turn. Like, I had actually started to anticipate just living my best life in 2021, to be completely honest with you. That's where I thought I was. So me and my best friend scheduled like our birthday photo shoot. It was supposed to be the year that I did a whole bunch of stuff, blah, 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 whoop de whoop, and it didn't really go down like that. So I did go and I did my birthday photo shoot. I can tell in the photos, I don't know if you guys can, I might put a couple here, but I can tell in the photos that I just wasn't my best self. Like, it was a good idea, but I personally didn't execute it very well, just because I wasn't in it. Like, I didn't feel like doing makeup. I didn't feel like constantly checking my hair. I just kind of was disconnected from the process. The experience was good, but it could have been better for me because I just didn't have a lot to really give socially, and just, I don't know, it was a good idea in my mind, but I couldn't get it out in the open the way that I wanted. That being said, my birthday 2021, I turned 27. Literally about 2 weeks after I turned 27, maybe not even that, maybe just a week, I started getting these really bad pains. And I have had pains before and know that they're typically cysts. So I figured that it was just a cyst. I made a doctor's appointment because it was excruciating pain. Well, when I ended up getting to the doctor's appointment, I was diagnosed with endometriosis, and at that time I had an endometrioma so large on one of my ovaries that I was being told that I needed to get one of my ovaries removed. So that's obviously greatly reducing my ability to have children, and I don't have physical children of my own yet. So, and I do want them. So being told that not only did I have endometriosis, but I was potentially looking at having one of my ovaries removed was very scary, to be honest. So I do have endometriosis. I didn't know enough about it. It was overwhelming. It was overbearing. I wasn't expecting that. I didn't know really how to take it, and I kind of went worst case scenario because I have a great desire to have children. So the fact that I was potentially looking at something that could further hinder that, and with endometriosis, women typically tend to have a harder time getting pregnant with the disease or the diagnosis anyway. So just adding on top of that one of my ovaries might have needed to be removed was a lot. So for about 3 weeks between the time that I got that diagnosis and the time I was able to get in with the second opinion, I was overwhelmed. I was depressed to the point to where it had affected my relationship like it had never affected my relationship before. I really had to learn how to communicate the best I could. It was just a very rough time, to the point I had probably lost about 20 pounds because I just couldn't eat. I didn't have an appetite. I was staying in my bed whenever I could. It was bad. It was real bad, honestly. It was worst case scenario, to be completely transparent. I didn't really have faith at all. Like, I still believed that God was who he was, but I couldn't bring myself to believe him I couldn't bring myself to think something positive to believe him for. So that being said, I went to the second opinion. By the time I got to the second opinion doctor, he did another ultrasound. Well, he looked at all of the what I had. He looked at my results. He looked at the x-rays or the ultrasound. He looked at all of that, and he confirmed that if that was the case, then yes, that would probably be the best course of action. So he did a second ultrasound, and luckily, I'm very blessed to have had friends who didn't mind praying for me, even when I didn't know how to pray for myself, because when he did his ultrasound 3 weeks later, the endometrioma that I had that was potentially needing me to have surgery was completely gone. It wasn't there. So surgery was no longer necessary, even though it could be down the road. It wasn't necessary now, because I was literally looking at just needing to decide if I was going to try to have kids if I was going to try to have kids within the next year, because I needed to kind of plan out. Like, I didn't have that much time before I was really going to need that ovary removed. So I was literally looking at having to make big decisions like that in a short amount of time based off a medical diagnosis. So yeah, it was definitely a lot. Once the weight of the diagnosis was still there even after I found out, that I wasn't going to have the surgery, and all of that was taken off the table. Just remembering all the things that I felt, seeing how depressed I had got, it took me a minute to get out of that. So by the summertime, I was still trying to kind of cope with that. I honestly probably still haven't properly coped with whatever all of those big emotions were that I had then. But that's another story for my therapist. So yeah, I then had to experience something else that was very scary. My great grandmother, who is 95, I love her dearly. She'll be 96 in February, and she is probably one of the healthiest people that I know, to be completely honest. And she ended up in the hospital. She was in the hospital for an extended amount of time, and because she was in the hospital, she had become a little bit disoriented, which is pretty typical for older people when they are taken out of their regular environment. But it was scary because they didn't really know what was wrong with her. They didn't really know what was happening. They couldn't really give any answers. And I went down to Georgia to see her, and just seeing her how she was, I had never seen her cry. ever in my life. I'm 27 years old and had never seen her, just in that type of state. So it was very, very difficult for me. Trying to, I still haven't prepared myself for that type of loss. So potentially facing it or feeling like I was facing it was a lot to process. So again, I fell into a big depression. So I had two different life events that were so big for me that they pretty much sent me into the greatest depressed state that I have been in a very long time. So I was dealing with that throughout pretty much the first half of the year. I was literally depressed. Um, we still hadn't I was depressed to the point we had kind of opened the church again after, with COVID, all the churches shut down and stuff. So we had kind of started opening the church for people to actually come into in-person service, and I wasn't interested. Like every now and again I would go, but to be honest, I wasn't even complacent at home because I wasn't even necessarily like watching it as I should have. Like, yeah, I would turn it on, but I wasn't really like interested, if that makes sense. So I was really struggling. I was still praying, I was still talking to God and all that kind of stuff, but I just wasn't active in church ministry anymore. So there was just a lot. I will say I can't really pinpoint right now. And I also became, so I want to go ahead and get all of the negative portions of my mental health out of the way first. So also towards the middle to end of this year, I started to struggle greatly with my mental health, specifically because of my job. You guys know I have 2 videos posted about me quitting my job in corporate America and how my last day was. So yeah, I quit the best job I ever had because it had literally taken a turn on my mental health. It had taken a toll on my mental health to the point to where I was getting anxiety attacks more often. I was getting anxiety chest pains more often, and they were so severe that things were being manifest physically. And if you've never experienced any type of mental health issues, then you may not really understand that. But the things that happen in your body can sometimes be a direct reflection of what's going on mentally. So I started becoming more sick in my body, like physically, than I ever have been before. I'm not really a sickly person. So I'm talking from something as simple as just nauseated all of the time, all the way down to being clumsy and falling downstairs and fracturing tailbones and things like that. So a big range of physical issues manifesting themselves because of what was going on mentally. I was just so mentally drained. I did make the decision in the summertime or towards the end of summer to go back to grad school. More so, God highly encouraged me. I didn't really make the decision. But anyway, so yeah, I went back to grad school and I started to find a better purpose. I started to remember that I had a passion for helping people with their mental health issues. So I'm in grad school currently to get my master's in clinical mental health counseling, if you guys know that. So all of that was going on. And towards the middle-ish to the end of the year, I had found myself so distraught mentally that I was seriously considering checking myself into a mental. I literally wanted to self-commit, to give myself time to be away. I felt like I needed to. During that time, I did take the opportunity to learn how to communicate more, to know that I needed to communicate more with those who love me so that they could help me. So I tried my best to articulate that to not only my significant other, but also to my friends as well, so that they could, kind of check in on me more often than they did. And they did a great job at that, praying for me and just, trying to be there as best as they could. So yeah, it was a very bad year on most of it, to be honest with you, as far as my mental health was concerned. Now, around August time frame, after my first full semester of school, the content that I was learning, just the idea of moving into a field that I really enjoyed, it all became purposeful for me. I started to remember my purpose. I started to be excited about something again. I also started to, earlier in the year, I started to get dressed a little bit more. So I started to remember what it felt like to embrace my personal style. I had also mentioned to you guys in like my outfit review video that there was a point this year that I was struggling with my identity. More so, I was struggling with allowing my identity to be authentic and to be genuine, because I had realized there was a lot of self-reflection and a lot of realizations about myself this year. I started to realize that I had been getting dressed. I had been doing so many things for the unsolicited approval of others. I always had other people in mind when I was getting dressed. I had always had other people in mind when I was planning to do this or planning to post that. So I decided that I couldn't do that. So anything that I felt like I unintentionally was doing to please someone else, I started to do the opposite, all the way down to getting dressed. And I told you guys in that video, there was an outfit that was probably risque for who was going to be around where I was going. But I decided to do it anyway because it was going to make me feel good. It did make me feel good. And I wanted to make sure that people knew I was going to be who I am, no matter who. So once I started to really lean into finding that purpose, finding that passion, and knowing that I was starting to have big ideas on how I could do things, it started to help me a lot. This is around the time where I actually started a TikTok, and I started the TikTok well before I started my YouTube channel, but the concept of the content is the same. It's pretty much me going over my mental health and what helps me and how I use style as a major coping mechanism for those mental health issues. So once I started to get people who were inspired by me, I grew very quickly, in my opinion. I've been on TikTok since the end of August, I think it is. So August, September, October, November, December. So about 4 months, I'm at about, I think it's like 36,000. So for me, that was significant growth. I think I got to like 10K in a month, if that. So it was crazy for me, because these are small numbers when you start looking at, you know, comparing creators and all of that kind of stuff. But for me, for someone who literally has maybe 50 or 60 contacts in her phone, for someone who don't really talk to people like that, for someone who doesn't like to be in the spotlight per se, I don't like a lot of attention on me directly. I prefer to be in the background. That was a lot for me. And to see the comments, to see the DMs, to just see that so many other people were being inspired by what I was doing, stuff that I was just doing on a regular basis. It wasn't anything fancy. I didn't, you know, try to create this aesthetic of what stuff was and what stuff wasn't. I just did what I normally do in my normal life, and I let people in on that. And to see the amount of people that I was inspiring just further fueled the flame, basically. And that kind of took me out of those big depressive areas. So I haven't really allowed myself to go back there. Not saying that the depression is completely gone or anything like that, because that's just the nature of who I am as a person. Those are parts of me, to be honest. But I've leaned more into using them to help other people. That being said, now I have left my job. I am doing content creation full-time. I'm going to school full-time. I am starting up a nonprofit, same stuff in mind, which is the intent is to open up a thrift store this year, and so many other things, programs, just a lot of things that I want to be able to do to help people in the community. So I am now really cultivating a life that I want to live, that I desire to live. And to be honest, that I started to learn that I do deserve to live, because somewhere towards the end of the year, while I don't really remember if I had any type of word at the beginning, I began to embrace the word abundantly. More specifically, I began to embrace the fact that the word says that God, that Jesus came not that we may have life and have it more abundantly. And then I started to think about the fact that the word says he can do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask or think. And I started to tell God that I wanted abundantly to be my standard. That's the minimum standard for me now. And it's abundantly. So now I am in a very amazing position to go on a journey, because I've told you guys that quitting my job was a very big deal for me. So now I'm on this journey, and it's really just me and God walking this thing through and seeing what happens, seeing what can be done. And I'm still at this place of abundantly. Moving into 2022, and I'm actually going to kind of make a part 2 to this video where I'm going to give my 2022 goals, aspirations. I'll share with you the digital vision board that I made and all that kind of stuff. I do have this back here is actually a vision board that I did at a vision board party, and it's specifically for my business. So that's that. But yeah, I have so much that I desire to do going into 2022. And I'm just really looking forward to it, to be completely honest. But yeah, that's what my year looked like. For the most part, this year was filled with depression, was filled with anxiety. And even though that's the case, I still feel like I have more purpose than I've ever had. I still feel like I'm able to hear God clearer than I was able to hear him earlier on. Even when it comes to like my spiritual gifts, I have grown in that area. I have grown in a way that I can listen, that I can understand, that I am more just aware overall. I'm more aware of my mental state. I'm more aware of where my spirit is. I'm more aware of what my flesh got going on. So it was really a growing year for me. It was really a year of maturing. It was really a year of, like I said, there was a lot of self-reflection. There was a lot of learning that took place, even though I had to go through some very dark times. And please understand that I don't think I'm doing justice to the fact that the times were very dark, very dark. So yeah, that was my year. And despite the fact that there was so much bad, it was probably one of the best years of my life. Because like I said, I learned so much. I did a lot. I felt accomplished. And you know what's crazy about that statement? All of that started to occur around September, October. So from September, October to December, it pretty much propelled me into purpose, despite the fact that the first 8 months or so of the year, I didn't even have an idea of who I was. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of share what my year was like for you guys, specifically mentally, and just kind of, let you in on how things can progress, how things can move up and down, and just, what mental health illness, what mental illness can look like, can sound like, can be like for those who experience those things. So yeah, that's that. Make sure you stay tuned for part 2. I'm going to make sure I have this video posted. Excuse me. It's going to be posted on the 31st. So today should be the 31st when it gets posted. And I'm about to go ahead and record part 2, because I'm going to also post part 2 on the 31st, so you guys can see what my intentions are going into 2022. So let me know in the comments if you have any big aha moments from 2021.